You know what? I forgot. I took the intro video off, so we're live. So good evening, everybody. We are here with another Phins forecast show. First and foremost, we have a special announcement tonight. Anthony Pinzone and his lovely wife Holly had their first child on Sunday, wasn't it, guys? On Sunday.
Yes, it was.
His name is Harbor. Mother and baby are doing fine. We couldn't be happier for them. Anthony's going to miss the next few months of shows while he adjusts to fatherhood, and Godspeed to him for that. So, guys, Anthony, if you're out there listening, congratulations, brother. We are super happy for you and your wife, and that's what do you guys have anything to say?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think I could be more excited for this for him and the wife, right? I think they're going to make great parents. They brought yet another Dolphins fan into this world. Join the misery. No, in all seriousness, Anthony, if you're watching, congratulations. Could not be happier.
Absolutely. Taylor?
Yeah. Like we were talking about in the group chat with him, just congrats to you, man. I hope you find ways to sleep over the next few months. I have a few friends who've had kids in the last few months, and yeah, sleep is not common. I'm just going to say that. So.
Well, hopefully Anthony may or may not be sleeping right now, but if he's watching, Anthony, congratulations again. And we're going to get into the show right after this. All right. Good evening, everybody. We are back with another Phins forecast show. Again, my apologies for taking off the intro video, the countdown video. To you guys, I know you guys weren't ready. I was messing around on StreamYard earlier on in the week, and I took the intro video out.
It's all good.
So that's all on me. So how we doing tonight, Josh? How you doing tonight, man?
Doing well, man. A little tired tonight, but really excited to get into some of these topics from Mr. Chris Greer himself.
Yeah.
Some of the
keyword is some.
Some, yeah, just a few of the interesting things that he said and the manner in which he said it. Super excited as always to be doing this with you fellas. Love chopping it up. I look forward to this every week, so really appreciative.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun show tonight. Again, Chris Greer had a press conference. We are going to get into all of that. Taylor, how you doing tonight, man?
Well, as you guys can tell, I have a new nickname, and I feel like it's appropriate.
That's fine. Yep. Some foresight there, buddy.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get into the draft news, but everything else, yeah, I mean, it's there, I guess. Yeah.
So we're gonna get into all of that. Frozen Phins fan has joined us tonight.
Yeah, he sent that at 12 in the morning.
Damn.
Yeah.
You go, boy.
Yeah.
And
shout out, and real quick, I'm sorry, Keith, I don't mean to interrupt you, but while we have it popped up, I don't want to forget, he is actually going to be joining the show here post the draft. And really excited to get him on. We'll do more of a warm welcome kind of video, but I just wanted to get it out there so everyone can start getting pumped up and excited about it.
Absolutely. We're super excited for him to join us. And I mean, I really hope you weren't waiting for us since 12 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a long time to wait for little old us. And Anthony's tuned in. I'm ready. Anthony, what's going on, man?
And by tables, he means diaper tables.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get into it. First and foremost, it was announced earlier on in the week that Jalen Ramsey and the Dolphins are mutually going to be seeking a trade this offseason. Now, first and foremost, I think it behooves me to point out that Jalen Ramsey's cap hit is going to go up from going to go up by about $7 million, which only leaves the Dolphins about $7 million, and that's basically just enough to sign the draft class. So, for one thing, I don't know that this makes sense from a cap perspective unless they have other moves up their sleeve. And for another, that leaves us completely without a number one cornerback. So, Taylor, I'm going to start with you. Give me your thoughts on this. This kind of came out of left field, I think, right?
Well, for starters, Keith, I love how you used the word behooved. That was very appropriate there. Yeah, man, I don't hate the move. I hate the timing of the move. A week before the draft, we're going to be trading the starting corner. It's not like Jalen Ramsey, I think, at this stage. I don't think he's what he used to be. But he's still a good corner. I would say really good corner in this league. And now you're sitting there going like, okay, what can you really even get for Jalen Ramsey? Is it going to be less because of the money, or is it going to be more because of the draft class, But overall, like you said, Keith, it's a thing where you're just looking at the roster and you're going, well, it'd been great to know that about a month ago.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have got a free agent or two.
Yeah. I mean, this roster, and we've talked about it ad nauseum here, but like this roster is already riddled with holes. Both sides of the ball, every level of, there are very few positions where we can say, okay, we're good. And cornerback wasn't one of them going into the offseason, wasn't one of them going into this draft. And now you're creating another hole. So, Josh, are we cutting off our noses to spite our faces here? Like, what's going on here, man?
I mean, look, yeah, does it suck? Sure. Does the timing suck? Yes. Does it open up another hole? I mean, I don't think it opens up another hole. I just think it makes a current existing hole bigger, right?
Fair.
I will say this. We're in a situation when Philly Phins fan himself is like, okay, maybe we go cornerback in the first round.
Yeah.
Mr. Trenchman, and I'm fully with you on the trenches. But yeah, I think this definitely, if this move were to come to fruition, which we don't know what's going to happen. Let's just put that out there. We have no news. We have not been we don't have any reports from behind the scenes things of people that we talk to saying this is for sure happening, right? This is a mutual. They're exploring something, so we'll see, right? I mean, moves like this happen the week or two before the draft. This is and during it. This is when it happens. Hopefully, we also move on from Tyreek Hill. We'll see. The one thing that bothered me with the entire news about Jalen Ramsey is Chris Greer coming on and, I don't know, trying to make us believe that he didn't request a trade. So you're telling me, so one of two things is happening, in my opinion. You're either lying to us, which is probably what's happening, because you don't want to get it out there so you can try to get as much as you can, because you don't want to be trying to negotiate from the bottom part of the negotiation. Or he just decided, hey, let's just make a position of need even worse. I don't know why, right? And the only thing I can think of, if that's the case, is that they're trying to reset the books. They're not trying to spin it as a rebuild, but this in fact is a rebuild. We are, when this kind of stuff happens, depending on the moves that happened in the draft and post-draft, I think it's safe to say that this isn't a soft rebuild. This isn't we're just going to rebuild a position group. This is we're getting younger, which we have, which is awesome, right? So let's find some silver linings, right? We try to be positive here, even though they make it very difficult on us sometimes. But I think, there can be some positive things gleamed, and that we can get from this, right? So to Taylor's point, depending on the compensation rather will depend on how much money we're going to eat, right? And what those negotiations look like. So I would caution the fans and me. I'm saying this out loud more for just therapeutic stuff, because I know me. I tend to knee-jerk reaction when I see things. If the compensation is low, dig into the deal, because that might mean that the team that's acquiring them is taking on the majority of the cap, which is fine.
Yeah. Now, there is one thing I wanted to touch on that you just said there, Josh. Is this a soft rebuild? Now, the question I have to ask, though, is why would a GM and head coach whose seats are basically boiling commit to a rebuild at this stage of the game? Why wouldn't they double down and try to, get back to the playoffs, maybe win a playoff game, save their jobs for another season?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? I think
It's also just confusing because
Mhm.
it's either, they are on the hot seat, or Stephen Ross has given either one of them or both of them the leeway to be like, hey, all right, you guys reset the books in 2025. Let's load this roster up with young talent. In 2026 will be your final year if you can't get it going. And either it's the lack of, I guess, communication, and both Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer, we'll get into Chris Greer in a minute. I don't think that either of them are fantastic at public speaking.
No.
So it makes it so much worse when they're trying to, do these press conferences and they're trying to explain moves and all that. And it comes across as like fake confidence or false confidence to
That's
me.
exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to dance around shit they're trying to dance around. Oh, damn it. I made the mistake, guys. This early, 11 minutes in. They're trying to dance around stuff, and they're not good at dancing, right?
There you go. You saved it.
Yeah.
But
they're trying to dance around stuff. They're not good at dancing. Public speaking certainly isn't Chris Greer's forte. Mike McDaniel,
is not good at it.
he's just way too careful with his words. The way he talks, he talks like somebody who, has no plan. Has no plan when he steps up to the podium, and just speaks from the words that are coming into his head, and is trying not to say the wrong thing, and is trying so hard to say the right thing, and it's just it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
So let me ask you guys a question about Ramsey. But I know we're not going to spend all the show talking about him, but we traded 3rd round pick in Hunter Long, I think, right? Was that it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
For Ramsey in the 2022 offseason. With the return on the investment, do you think that, or rather, let me rephrase it. Do you think that this was a positive return on the investment for what we did get out of him? Granted, he missed some games, but when he played, he played. Or do you think that we lost that trade?
I don't think there were any losers in that trade per se. But if there was a winner in that trade, I'd say we won. I thought Jalen Ramsey has been, so I've been less critical of him than, say, Taylor and Anthony. Anthony was not a big Jalen Ramsey fan. I watched Jalen Ramsey play last season, and a few plays, a few bad moments aside, Jalen Ramsey was still the number one cornerback that that he was brought in to be. So when I look at Jalen Ramsey and I say, for the last 2 years, he's been our number one cornerback. He kind of took the mantle from Xavier Howard and, was everything that we wanted him to be, everything that, he was advertised to be coming in. I have no complaints with Jalen Ramsey. He doesn't really owe us anything at this point. But at this point, we have guys like Tyreek Hill. We have guys like Jalen Ramsey. We have guys on this roster that have that quote-unquote diva personality. And I think more than anything, Chris Greer, Mike McDaniel, I think they're trying to purge themselves of those kind of personalities and bring in calmer, more milquetoast guys who are just team-oriented.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to be honest with you, and maybe this is going to be a spicy take. Maybe I'm sure I'll get destroyed on social media on the comments on this show. I don't hate it. Right? I mean, yes, sure. It makes the cornerback position even more of a need. Okay, it was already a need, right? Yeah. Ramsey, he's good. He's not who he was. He's not worth, in my opinion, the $73 million contract renegotiation that we gave him last year. So fine. Okay, we eat some money. We get him off the books. We're in a better situation next year with maybe a new GM and maybe a new head coach. But fine. Tyreek Hill, I've wanted gone since the middle of the year. After he quit on the team in Week 18 against the Buffalo Bills, I doubled down, right? So, you know, maybe this is, like I said, maybe this is, I'm in the minority here, but I think these are, yes, it's going to suck. And yes, we're not getting better right now. But I think the juice in this case is certainly worth the squeeze, right? It's worth taking it on the chin, in my opinion, just cleaning the corners of some of these positional rooms. And yes, they're good players. And yes, it's name recognition. And yes, and all of this other fun things that we like to talk about. But I mean, look, you don't want to be here, bye. Like, I mean, it's that simple, right?
Yeah. And I don't know that he wants to be here. I don't know that he doesn't want to be here. I think I would think that he probably doesn't want to be here. I think he wants to go to a contender and try and compete for another Super Bowl. And I don't think he sees a path for that in Miami.
I mean, do you blame him?
No, I don't blame him.
Hall of Famer. Like Calais Campbell left too. Like,
yeah,
I understand both of them leaving. I question why Calais Campbell went to Arizona, but
well, I think Calais Campbell went to Arizona because he spent the first however many years of his career.
And that's where he was drafted, right?
Yeah,
that's
where he was drafted. But
so I feel like he was just going home.
But you know what's really funny though in all of this is that there are so many people during the season. Oh, we're an old team. We're slow. Ugh, we're old. And now we're getting rid of the old players aren't coming back, or we're trying to ship them out or whatever. And now everyone's like, oh, we're screwed. And it's like, okay, well, stop straddling the fence. Pick a side, stick to it. Right?
Yeah.
Does it suck that we're losing? I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame talent, but a very, very, very solid top NFL career type talent in Jalen Ramsey. Sure, sucks. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's getting older. He was injured last year. He was injured the year before. Does it suck that we're losing Tyreek Hill? Potentially. Hopefully. I shouldn't say we are losing him. Hopefully we're losing him. Sure. Yeah, it sucks. Okay, he's fast. But
yes,
we were just as bad with him off the field than we were with him on the field. So what are we really losing? Except a guy that had more babies and touchdowns and a guy that quit on his team in week 18 and a guy that is always in the news in the offseason for some dumb crap that he's doing. It's not dumb what he's doing. I mean, it's serious, the crap that he's getting.
Yeah, but you're also saying, what are we losing? And I do feel like I'm 100% with you. I do not want Tyreek Hill on this team next year.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because I do like the avenue to get younger, build through the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Tyreek Hill is already, it seems like he won't be on the team in 2026.
No,
so I'm of the opinion, hey, if there's trade value here, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the Aaron Rodgers situation with Green Bay, where they waited, in my opinion, a year too late to trade Aaron Rodgers. Whereas the year prior, they possibly could have got multiple firsts from like the Broncos, who traded for Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So it's a thing where, on the field with Tyreek Hill, 100%, I would like to move on from him. But this is a guy who had nearly 2,000 yards receiving the year prior in 2023.
Yeah.
So you still are losing a top tier talent as you are on the defense with Jalen Ramsey as well.
Yeah. So the one thing with the one thing with Tyreek Hill that I think warrants pointing out is that, first off, he wasn't the same player on the field that he was in years past. But also, I look at that Texans game.
Mm-hmm.
I look at that damn Texans game. Tua Tagovailoa threw 3 interceptions in that game, 2 of which can be directly attributed to Tyreek Hill either cutting off a route on one interception and running the wrong route on another interception. More than anything, for a quarterback like Tua, you need to run the right route. Don't cut it off. Be where you're supposed to be. Be where Tua expects you to be on that route so he can get you the football.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go rogue.
Yeah, and you haven't even mentioned the drop touchdowns. He lost us 2 games.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah. So now that being said, we're talking about trading Tyreek Hill. His name's been in the headlines again this whole season. And I'm not going to get into what happened or what didn't happen. Or the fact of the matter is his name was in the headlines again. His trade value has never been lower. I don't know what we can get for Tyreek Hill at this point. But we are going to move on. Chris Greer had a press conference this week. And we kind of touched on it earlier. We said, not the best public speaker, understood all of that, but there were things that were said. Now we addressed Jalen Ramsey, but he did come out and give a full-throated endorsement of Patrick Paul as left tackle of the Miami Dolphins. Now I watched Patrick Paul play last year, same as you guys. I didn't think now Pro Football Focus hated Patrick Paul. They rated him like 80th out of 85 tackles. I don't think he was quite that bad, but there is a lot of room for improvement in Patrick Paul's game. So how do you feel? How do you feel about Patrick Paul as the left tackle, the bona fide starting left tackle moving forward, Josh?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, okay, hold on. Sorry. I am cautiously optimistic. How's that? I think that's a more realistic
That's much better.
representation.
I love it. You know what?
Yeah.
Future Hall of Famer. Go ahead and get the gold jacket now.
No, I'm not there yet, obviously. But I think all of his stats were skewed because they were seasonal, and he did have a horrific game at left tackle, right? Or at right tackle. Right tackle. And, when you only play, what was just under 100 snaps on the season or whatever it was, maybe it's more than that. I don't have the stats open in front of me, but, a one bad game can heavily skew. So, fine. I liked what I saw at left tackle, right?
Okay.
I think having a full year behind Armstead, the way he coaches the way he himself coaches, meaning Armstead coaches players. He has clinics in the offseason for offensive linemen that professional, real starting offensive linemen go specifically to attend to learn from him. The fact that you were in the building with him 24 hours, well, maybe not 24 hours a day, but you get the gist of it. That's a great thing. And the fact that Armstead, unprompted, no need for him to come out and say anything. The fact that he came out and gave Patrick Paul a rave review and a ringing endorsement holds a lot more weight than somebody like Chris Greer or Mike McDaniel saying, yep, he's our guy. To me, you know what I mean? And I like what I saw on film. Does he need to improve? Yeah, of course he does. He was a rookie last year. He's not going to know everything. And he was was he a second round pick? Second round pick, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, he's got some things to learn, but you have foundational traits there that you can build on. Is he ever going to be a top 5 left tackle in this league? Who the hell knows? We don't need him to be a top 5 left tackle in this league.
No.
We need him to be a top 15.
Yeah.
Right? We need you to lock it down. That is not to his blind side. So that's fine. We have a veteran left guard next to him that'll help. We'll have hopefully a really good tight end come draft time, maybe, depending on how things go in round 1 or round 2, to line up next to him to help block. Hopefully we get a power. So there are things that you can do to shade the protection or to put pieces around a newer left tackle so that he can learn, not on the fly, but so that he can learn how to play the position. The benefit of it is that we're getting a giant man that can move very fast with very, very long arms that is not coming into a starting role having not played a single game, and not just not having played a game, but he's also started games. So he's got a lot of experience to fall back on, in my opinion.
Taylor, what do you think?
Really everything Josh said, minus the initial part about, I feel fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
Aside from that,
he walked that back. Come on.
But no, I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I think we brought this up last week, how during the retirement party, Armstead talked about, Patrick Paul's going to be the guy. He looked fine last season to me. I don't think anything to write home about, but also not bad. And considering he was a second-round rookie who was very raw coming out of college, I think that's a great thing to not look bad and to look fine out there. So, like you said, Josh, I don't think he needs to be spectacular out there at left tackle, but just to be decent there,
And he showed flashes, right?
Yeah, he showed flashes.
Yeah.
Yep.
To me, the guards and this isn't to sit here and once again, let's talk about the trenches. But the guards are the way more important part of this offense.
Yes. Continue talking about the guards, Taylor.
I mean, but you're not wrong, Taylor, right? I mean, the guards are how this offense will go, and I think, and that's why I said on last week's show, I'm not as worried about the offensive line as most people are. I think there's still things that need to happen.
Chris Greer.
I'm not. I'm sorry. We just got done saying, okay, Patrick Paul is not a bad left guard or left tackle. Not top 5 in the league, but he's serviceable right now. That's all you can hope for in a second round player that's going to start for the first time on a regular basis. You have a very decent left guard that you signed in free agency. Better than the one we had last year. So we've improved at that position. We have a returning center who we all raved about in Aaron Brewer. We have a void at right guard that hope to God we fill in the draft or in post-draft free agency. And we have a returning player at the right tackle position in Austin Jackson, who we all raved about when he was playing because he was playing at a top 5, top 7 level. So, I mean, yes, injuries. Yes, depth. Yes, I get it. We need a right guard. We need 7 right guards. I understand that. We need somebody to take Liam Eichenberg behind the shed and put him out of his misery. I understand that. But the offensive line is not the bombshell that we thought it was, right? It's not a ghost town. It's not deplete and devoid of talent is what I'm trying to say.
And I will say this, Teron Armstead's retirement, and I know you guys talked about it last week. Teron Armstead's retirement doesn't leave a hole at left tackle because Patrick Paul was drafted specifically to be the heir apparent to Teron Armstead. So, this was the plan all along. Chris Greer does plan ahead, as it turns out.
You better hold your tongue when you say that.
Yeah. This was the plan all along.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And so there's not a hole is the point. And that's actually a really good thing because on a roster, again, full of holes, this isn't one. So Patrick Paul is going to step in and be left tackle. We got the full third endorsement of Chris Greer during the press conference. We're going to go back to cornerback here, guys. Jalen Ramsey's on the trade block. Jalen Ramsey may or may not be a Dolphin come next season. Cam Smith came up in the press conference, and he kind of got, I wouldn't say as full-throated of an endorsement of Patrick Paul as Patrick Paul got, but he did get an endorsement from Chris Greer. And it was essentially said by Chris Greer that Cam Smith is going to be thrown into the deep end of the pool. He's going to be a starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, cornerback for the Miami Dolphins this year. And I'll be the first to say it, not nearly as pumped about this one as I was about Patrick Paul. Not nearly as confident about this one as I was with Patrick Paul. But Cam Smith is getting thrown into the deep end of the pool here. Taylor, what are your thoughts?
Well, you're 100% right about Greer not giving as much of a ringing endorsement because what he said about Cam Smith was more so of he knows what's expected and, at some point you just got to play. And I actually do agree with that. At some point you just got to go, hey, I drafted Cam Smith in the second round. We got to just see what happens because that's too premium of a pick to just let sit on the bench the entire time. So I agree with that mindset. It's just to me like there's so many mixed results with Chris Greer these last 2 to 3 years. Like, oh, yeah, he'll get Aaron Brewer or Jordan Brooks. Then he'll do something like the Jalen Ramsey extension or the Tyreek Hill extension. And you just sit there going like, why? It seems like I know you're coming off of 2023 where statistically everything was going so well, but it seems so unnecessary. And now we're seeing the consequences of that. So this move about Cam Smith being, we got to put him in the starting lineup. It's like, okay, I get it, but you've kind of put us in more of a bind than I think you really could have,
Yeah. And, I understand what you're saying, Taylor, where it's like, it's a second round pick. You have to throw him out there at some point. Where was this attitude regarding Channing Tindall at linebacker? Channing Tindall was a linebacker. They drafted him in the third. He was a top pick I think the 2021 draft out of Georgia. He was a linebacker. guy hasn't set the field. I mean, maybe he's played a couple special team snaps. Outside of that, we haven't. He has been persona non grata with the Dolphins. So why the sudden confidence? Why the sudden brash? We're going to throw this guy into the fire with Cam Smith. Because
it seems like he has a change of attitude, Keith. I mean, you look at the other comments he made about drafting, and I don't remember the exact quote, but basically he was like, maybe I defer to coaches too much. Which, there's a give and take there. Like, on one hand, we all sat here after the season going like, yeah, this is something I think Chris Grier does semi-well. He listens to his coaches. The problem is there's a limit to that, and then you possibly listen too much to your coaches and draft. So maybe this is just another thing Chris Grier has been like, you know what? I'm getting killed by the media, by the fans, for all this stuff. If I'm going to go out, I'm going to be the actual GM of this team. And we're going to put Cam Smith out there. Maybe he'll end up doing that with Tyndall too and be like, hey, we got to give Tyndall a shot.
I don't know that I agree with that, though. I mean, there's the GM and there's the coach. You know, it's you know, you're not paid to put the players out in the field. You're paid to give the coaches the materials, and the coaches are supposed to be the ones
buy the groceries.
Exactly. Buy the groceries, and the coaches are the cooks. And that's how it's supposed to be. I don't know that I agree with Chris Grier sticking his beak into the locker room and saying to Mike McDaniel, you're starting Cam Smith. Yeah. You're starting Cam Smith. You're starting Channing Tindall because I drafted them for you. And what's my, if I'm Mike McDaniel, I'm saying, yeah, but those guys suck.
F off.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and not for nothing. Like, it's very easy to hate on the Cam Smiths and the Tindalls of the world, but they didn't ask to be drafted when they were drafted. Yeah. Right. I mean, Tyndall is a situational pass rusher in college. What the hell why did we draft him in the third? What did we expect him to be? Right. Yeah. Cam Smith, I actually was a big fan of the pick. I thought we got a steal because he was a first-round talent. He was graded as the number one cornerback in that draft. Cool. Fell to the second. Great. Let's pick him. In some cases, not all cases. But, I think Cam Smith has just he's had a horrible run of luck, right? He had a defensive coordinator that for some reason put him in the doghouse. Then he got injured. Then he came back. Then he got injured again. Yeah.
And Vic Fangio, the only person you can ask about why certain guys are in his doghouse is the man himself, Vic Fangio. Of course. Good.
No, I don't think it matters, right? I don't think who cares, right? My thing is I feel like this was a throwaway comment by Chris Grier because he just got done saying, "Hey, we're trading the number one cornerback on our team, but hey, we're good. We got Cam Smith." It's like, dude, we're not idiots, right?
Yeah,
we know Cam Smith shouldn't be starting. Right? In a perfect world, he's good enough to be a starter. But what has given you any form of confidence that this man can start, let alone play consistently? In the film and the tape that he's put on in his career so far. So
it's not confidence. I think it's necessity.
Yeah, but
you look
that's not a reason. I'm sorry. We have a post-draft free agency. We have a draft where we can draft the multiple cornerbacks. You don't come up there and say, "Hey, we're good. We got Cam Smith, guys."
Yeah,
buddy, I'm not disagreeing. I'm 100% with you. I'm just saying, I think the thing is they're looking at Kader Kohou, they're looking at Cam Smith, and I think they're like, I assumed at cornerback will be addressed in the draft at some point.
Better.
Yeah.
Early and often.
I think they're also looking at these two like, hey, we've invested in them in some way, some form. They'll have to step up because we're looking at the D-line room, we're looking at the guard room, we're looking at the linebacker room, the tight end room, the safety room. They seem, by the way, that's something else that I don't really want to prolong this too much longer, but it really seemed like Chris Grier was like, no, I think we got the starting safeties in the room right now. And
again, right? We have to remember this is draft season.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's going to be truth in a lot of things that are said. There's also going to be a lot of BS.
Yeah. Misinformation is flying around all 32 teams right now. Yeah. I don't think any GM is actually telling the truth. And honestly, the time for Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel to be speaking from a place of necessity, like Cam Smith is going to be our starter. Save that for training camp. If we go into training camp and Jalen Ramsey's been traded, and suddenly you look around the roster and your top two cornerbacks are Cam Smith and Kader Kohu, and now it's like, well, I mean, it's the same kind of thing with where Chris Greer didn't address the offensive line. He said, well, you guys are more worried about the offensive line than I am. What else is he going to say? We're super concerned about the offensive line. We're freaking out, guys.
I'm losing my stuff right now.
we really wish we would have addressed this in the offseason.
We really pooped the bed.
Yeah.
Again, to be clear, I'm not defending
of course, I know
the move at all. I think it's really stupid. It's just you do look at like what has been said, and you're right, Keith. It could be a little bit of smoke screen, but I think that's another problem with this press conference. And while I'm not frustrated by it, I'm just like confused by it because I don't know what the vision of this team is right now.
No, and I don't even think they know right now, and that's the terrifying part.
I think hopefully, and again, this is wishful thinking on my part. Hopefully, the vision for this team, Taylor, will come into focus. Maybe we'll see a vision, a week or two after the draft, and we'll finally understand. Okay, think the pieces are falling into place. The draft, they drafted this guy, that guy, and the other guy. Filled this hole, that hole.
Right?
Yeah.
We get it now.
Yeah, we found. Oh, wow, Chris Greer had a plan all along.
Holy crap! Good job, buddy. The Cam Smith comment, really quick, and this will be the last thing I say about this.
Yeah,
these kind of things. I interpret it like, hey, let's cut the entire arm off, just to save a finger. Yeah. Right? It's like, I don't know. I don't need you to try to instill some BS confidence in us that, hey, we have Kader and Cam Smith and they've been in the system and he's miraculously going to not get injured because he's been injured every year that he's been in the league. This is going to be the year, right? This is one of those things where I just wish, and I know it's never going to happen. I just wish they would just shut up and not say anything, or just be bluntly honest. Like, yeah, guys, we're in some crap right now. We have to make some moves. But even if they said that and then came back and said, hey, but just bear with us. We will address it. Like, cool, fine. Hey, go do your thing, right? You get millions of dollars to make these decisions. We're doing a podcast. Who am I to judge, right?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna go through the bullet points of the rest of Chris Greer's press conference. So he basically said, they're not looking to trade Tyreek Hill. They'll give him up for 2 firsts. There's no universe in which that's going to happen. They asked him if Stephen Ross wanted him to pull back on spending this year. And he basically said that Stephen Ross did not tell him that. Stephen Ross did not tell him that he had to clear the book, so to speak. We'll see if that – I don't know that that's entirely true either. I think – but, again, smoke screens. Is you're thinking that if Fatu Melifonwu, National Davis, Patrick McMorris – Thank you very much. I practiced that.
You said that like you've known him his whole life.
Yeah.
So they asked Taylor's point if they thought that the starting safeties were already in the building, and he said yes, they do. So I don't know that they're going to address safety in the draft. That's yet to be determined. And how much of an effort was made to re-sign Calais Campbell, and I think he downplayed that a little bit. I think that they were pretty desperate to sign Calais Campbell.
Yeah.
And they downplayed it because they got spurned by Calais Campbell. So
I mean, I will say this. I would be careful saying we got spurned. Right?
Well,
right. I mean, look, I think we
said
said
it felt that way to me, at least.
I think we gave him a price and said, this is what we feel comfortable paying you. If you want to finish your career here, you're already established. Everyone loves you. Come play for this price.
Yeah.
If you don't, and you find a team that's willing to give you what more than this, we wish you the best. Yeah. Right.
And at the end of the day, he is going home, and I have no hard feelings towards Calais Campbell. Love the season he played with us. Would have loved to have him back, but he is going home to Arizona, where he can maybe roll up on Ryan Tannehill's knee again and tear his ACL like he did before. And then. Finally, he was asked if they thought if he would label this offseason as a soft rebuild or a reset, and he said no. And of course, he said no because if he did say yes to that question, then season ticket prices would probably go way down. season ticket sales would go way down. So guys, we're going to move on to the third round of the draft, third round and beyond, basically. So we're gonna take this position by position. Not going to spend a lot of time on every position, but we're going to go through kind of our guys in this draft who we like in the third round, maybe and beyond, sleepers and stuff like that. Guys who we can see the Dolphins can see wearing the aqua and orange next year, who we wouldn't necessarily draft in the first or second round. We're going to start off with quarterback here. So, Josh, I know you have one guy on your list at quarterback, two guys on your list at quarterback for the third round. Do tell.
Yeah, so just to recap, right? So we're going to cover the third round, just like you said, Keith. We're going to cover the third round, but position by position. Then we're going to go into potential sleepers. So for me, I have two quarterbacks ranked as third round prospects. I have, as we talked about on the last show, I am a massive nerd. I created my own scoring and Miami Dolphins fit calculation algorithm to grade players based on a bunch of stuff that nobody that's listening gives a shit about. So I can tell you this. I have Jalen Milrose and Will Howard. Jalen Milrose out of Alabama, Will Howard out of Ohio State, rated for me as third round players. Neither of them have a very high fit to Miami score whatsoever. Out of 400, Jalen Milrose has a 27.3 and Will Howard has a 3.9. So, not great in our scheme, but they are worth mentioning. This is not an indication that I think they are bad quarterbacks in general. I don't think they're great quarterbacks, but I don't think they're bad. I can see a scenario in which Will Howard goes in the first round, right? There are a few teams, AKA the one that has Chip Kelly. Right. Yeah. And they happen to need a quarterback, right? And unless they trade up, they're going to have slim pickings. So I can see a scenario where I have a player rated in the third round where a quarterback needy team takes him in the first. He's got talent. I don't know. I have Jalen Hurts as my Jalen Milrose kind of player comp, and I have Nick Foles as my Will Howard, right? So I'm not super. I hope Miami does not end up with either of these guys, but I won't. Cry myself to bed if we do.
Josh, I understand the comparison between Jalen Milroe and Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
That's a comparison to be made between those two guys, but I think it's a dangerous comparison when it comes
of course
to
it is.
Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, it's mainly just a dual threat quarterback, right?
Yeah. I'm not as big a fan of Jalen Milroe. I have like a late third, early fourth round grade on him.
Same here.
To be fair, I didn't have as high a grade on Jalen Hurts either. Like I had a third or fourth round grade on him. Eagles took him in the second round, and really, I mean that Carson Wentz, was looking over his shoulder at that point. Mm-hmm. And Jalen Hurts, to his credit, took the bull by the horns, grabbed that Philadelphia Eagles starting quarterback position, made his own, and now he's the reigning Super Bowl champion. So,
yeah, well, all right. I'm not a big fan of Jalen Hurts either. So,
well,
I think he's a glorified running back that's a game manager at the quarterback position, which is fine. I mean, hey, I'm not sliding him in any capacity. I just don't think he's a top 5 quarterback in this league, like everyone says he is. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I would have agreed with you before this season, but now. I mean, he's made a believer out of me.
When you have the best offensive line in the league for your entire career, and you have the weapons that he has around him, and you have Saquon Barkley, and until he got, I mean, I'm sorry, like you don't have to be good. You just don't screw up.
Yeah, fair enough. So Taylor, what kind of third round grades do you have on quarterbacks here?
Eagles fan, Eagles fans in the comments, you want to address Aqua Ace or Josh. Just want to point that out there.
Bring it.
Just to talk about Jalen Milroe for a second. He's not on my list, but that's because I have a second round grade on Milroe. I like a lot of the traits he has. He is not a fit for this system whatsoever. He's the opposite of this system, but he is a freakish athlete. 99th percentile in terms of the 40 time. He has a military background. He's noted as a high character guy as well. He had 20 rushing touchdowns in 2024. Love the arm. I do think he struggles a bit when it comes to the pre-snap stuff. when it comes to, the blocking assignments and progressions and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think that's like a lack of like skill. I think it's just experience. You got to play it to actually learn and get better. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I don't have him on the Dolphins' radar. The only quarterbacks I have as third-round picks, I have Kyle McCord from Syracuse as a second to third-round grade, Jackson Dart as a second to third-round grade, Will Howard as a third to fourth-round grade, and I wouldn't take any of these players in round 3. And also, I think there's a good chance that 2 out of 3 of them aren't there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know where Jalen Milroe is going to go, but I think there's going to be a team that's going to reach on him in the second round. I do.
I do too. The problem is he's not accurate, right?
Yeah.
And the short and intermediate. He's got a cannon for an arm, and he's an insane athlete, but I don't know.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to the next position here, running back. And now I'm going to tell you guys the guy that I love in the third round, first and foremost, Bo Scatterbo. Love him in the third round. I think he's a great third-round pick. I think he'd be a great fit for what the Dolphins want to do. Taylor, I'm going to start with you. I don't know what kind of grade you have on Bo Scatterbo, but I know you have third-round grades on a few running backs here. So give them to me.
I have Scatterbo. I think I talked about him last week, but I have him as my 33rd overall player.
Ooh,
the third running back on the board. In terms of the third-round running backs who I think could be available, but I guess I'll say like the third-round running backs I have graded. Caleb Johnson from Iowa, I have a second to third-round grade. Damian Martinez from Miami, I have a second to third-round grade. My note on Martinez is I don't have many guarantees for players in this draft. I will make one guarantee. Damian Martinez is a future Angry Runs winner. Some week in 2025, maybe 2026, he will win that award. Brashard Smith, the running back from SMU, I have a third-round grade. And Kyle Monangai from Rutgers, I also have a third-round grade. I think Martinez is a shoe-in fit for that power back role in Miami.
Yes,
I love that. Monangai as well. He runs so hard. He reminds me of Isaiah Pacheco. And I don't really want to get into it right now. This might be something we talk about like during our draft episodes. But Brashard Smith reminds me so much of Devon Achane. And I know we don't need it. But what's better than one Devon Achane? 2 of them. So I wanted to shout that out.
I love Damian Martinez. I love Damian Martinez. I love the way he runs. He's got some Marshawn Lynch in him. That's kind of when I look at him, I see a guy who just refuses to go down sometimes. So I like that. And Monangai, his brother actually played in the NFL too. His brother spent some time with the Eagles in their camp. So there are some bloodlines there. I like Monangai as well.
Yeah.
Josh, what do you think about these running backs here?
Yeah, so for Damian Martinez, I have him as a fourth-round player, right? And my player comp just because is A.J. Dillon. I would absolutely love him on this roster. This is why I like this is why I love these shows, right? When we get to compare players that we have and where we have them ranked, because none of the players that Taylor said are on my round 3 list. And I absolutely love it. I love it, right? Because we want there to be differences of opinions. I have 4 running backs graded as third-round backs. I have Devin Neal out of Kansas. I have Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. I have Jordan James out of Oregon, and I have R.J. Harvey out of UCF. I only have one player that I like for Miami in the third round, and that's Devin Neal out of Kansas. Has an all-purpose back.
Can you get into that, though? Because I'm very curious, because Devin Neal, the thing that really got me was the lack of top-end speed.
Yep.
Granted, you watched the Colorado game, and
that's the game I watched when I was like,
he killed Colorado single-handedly. What he had, 200 yards, 4 touchdowns, or something like that.
Yep.
So
I don't know. I compared him. My player comp for him is Devontae Booker, right? So all-purpose type back. He's got some power. He lacks speed, but breakaway speed, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I think I have him rated as my 86th overall player. Again, not super high on the fit score, on my Dolphins fit score. So I'm not like advocating pounding the table that in round 3 we have to take a running back and it has to be Devin Neal. But, I do like the player. I like the skill set that he brings. I think it adds something that this room, at least what we know about this room, doesn't currently have. Now, we don't know what Wright looks like with all of the weight that he's put on. And I mean, we saw the social media post. The dude looks like a model. He's put on some serious weight in a pro NFL room. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe we have the power back on our roster already, right?
Yeah.
But those are the 4 players that I'm a big fan of in round 3 at least.
And it does. We should point out here that we just went over quarterback and running back. These 2 positions are positions that we're not likely to take in the first 3 rounds.
Right.
So let's move on to a position that we could take in the first 3 rounds here. Wide receiver. So Josh, I started with Taylor last time. Josh, I'll start with you on this one. Give me some third round wide receivers.
Yeah, I have 5 of them in my top 100. Right. Jaden Higgins out of Ohio State is my number 3 rated wide receiver in this draft so far. Jalen Royals out of Utah State. Isaiah Bond out of Texas of Alabama. Jalen Lane out of Virginia Tech, and I can never pronounce it.
Manor.
Thank you. Humanor or whatever out of Stanford. From a Miami Dolphins fit standpoint, Jaden Higgins, I absolutely am in love with. Yeah. Absolutely enamored with. Michael Pittman Jr.
Well, Josh. How the turntables. Last week on the show, you said, I don't even have him in my top 100.
I didn't.
I was dumbstruck.
I really didn't. He wasn't even. He was 100. So because I do my top 200, and he was ranked 115, I think. So he made it just outside my top 100. And so after the table got banged and I got ridiculed for not having him in my top 100, I went back and watched every game of his last year, and quickly put him as number 3 in the wide receiver positional rankings and number 32 overall.
So wait, who are your 1 and 2 then, Josh?
Tet McMillan and the guy from Texas. I'm blanking on his name.
Golden. Matthew Golden. So where do you have like Luther Burden? Where do you have Emeka Egbuka? Like where do you have those guys ranked?
Well, let me tell you. Hold on. Unless I just totally screwed that up and that's not really where he's ranked. Hang tight.
Well, Josh is doing that. Yeah.
Okay.
Last week when he was talking about Jaden Higgins, I was like, I couldn't even sleep that night.
All right, here's my overall rankings for the wide receiver room. Tet McMillan, number 1, ranked 12th overall. Matthew Golden is number 2, ranked 25th overall. Jaden Higgins is number 3, 32 overall. Egbuka out of Ohio State is 4, ranked 34th overall in my top 100. Yeah. Jack Besh is next at 45. Trey Harris out of Ole Miss is 47th overall. Luther Burden III out of Missouri is number 50 overall. Jalen Noel, Jalen Royals, Isaiah Bond, Jalen Lane, Elika Numenor.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was wondering where those guys, like, if you rank Higgins 3rd, like, where the other 2 guys rank.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I totally pooped the bed on that Higgins evaluation early on. I watched his film. That dude is a menace to society.
Yeah. I think he's going to be really good. He could sneak into the back half of the first round in my opinion.
I could easily see that. I gave him a 3rd round grade, right? Because I really do, coming out of not a smaller school, but Iowa State, not known for playing really huge competition in my opinion, right? But his measurables and his skill set.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
All right.
Push it into my veins.
All right, Taylor. Who do you have 3rd round grades on a wide receiver?
All right, I'm going to start with Jalen Royals, the wide receiver from Utah State. He is my 65th best player on my big board. Then I have Luther Burden III from Missouri, Jalen Noel from Iowa State, the teammate of Jaden Higgins. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Royals and Burden, I have a 2nd, 3rd round grades for Noel, I have a 3rd round grade. Xavier Restrepo from Miami, I have a 3rd round grade. We will get into it. That 40 times scared the hell out of me.
Yes, that's why that's why I
Savion
give him a
Williams.
5th round. Yep.
Yeah. Savion Williams, the wide receiver / running back from TCU, and Alec Ayamainer from Stanford, who is a 3rd / 4th round grade for me. Out of that group, I really like Jalen Royals for Miami, as well as Xavier Restrepo and Savion Williams. The latter of which is who I kind of want to get into, if you guys are down
go for it.
So he's 6'5". He reminds me a lot of Mike Williams as a receiver in terms of he has some concentration drops, but man, is he great in contested situations. But he's also explosive enough to where they line him up in Wildcat as a running back.
Yeah.
In a creative offense, I really love that potential, In that Mike McDaniel scheme, I think he would thrive. Restrepo to a lesser extent, because I think he's a slot-only guy. He's the ideal slot to me, but he is the opposite in terms of what we have on the roster because he's slow as hell. And Jalen Royals
that 40 time was like,
yeah,
that was worse than bad, dude. He ran like a 4.9? Yeah, 4.9.
Nearly a 4.9
as a slot receiver.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
That's a brutal.
Granted, there's been receivers that have succeeded in the past. Jarvis Landry, I think Wes Welker, Edelman.
Jarvis Landry ran like a 4.7 or 4.6 or something like that. 4.9.
That's a huge. That's half a second.
Armand Membu ran a 4.9.
Yo, put that into perspective. That's nope. He's an undrafted player in my opinion now. Thanks, Keith.
But yeah, Jalen Royals is the last one, and honestly, I don't get why he's not talked about more.
Who's your player comp on him?
Let me look it up.
I have Gabe Davis.
Okay.
I have Malachi Corley.
Same.
Yeah.
6-1, right?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move on to our next position here, tight end. Yeah, this is a position the Dolphins could potentially go in the 3rd round. Again, even wide receiver, I don't know that I would full-throatedly support them going any of these positions because we're going to get into positions of actual, real, cogent need.
Unless we trade Hill. I think if we trade Hill, it opens up I'm not saying it's a 1st-round need, but
yeah. But tight ends, who do you have 3rd-round grades on here, Taylor?
Got Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green, a 2nd and 3rd round grade.
Yeah.
Elijah Arroyo from Miami, 2nd, 3rd round grade.
Yep.
And Gunnar Helm from Texas, I have a 3rd to 4th round grade. Fannin and Helm, I have as fits from Miami. Fannin is one of those players that I think he plays not as tough as a Tyler Warren. I love the physicality on film. I really do. And his production was off the charts last season. He was the only wide receiver. When you look at the stats, you're like, oh, so he's the only wide receiver they had on the roster.
Yeah.
Because it's just – go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of his. And you mentioned Elijah Arroyo, and I like him too.
I do too. I think he's an amazing fit for Miami.
Yeah, I do too. So Josh, tell me your guys who have 3rd round.
Yeah, so Elijah I have as a 4th round player, so he's not on my list. I have 2 of the ones that were mentioned by Taylor in Gunnar and Harold. The other one that I have here is Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon. Kind of that Gerald Everett type, athletic type to tight end, I don't really have a high kind of Dolphins fit grade on any 3 of these guys. I think my tight ends in my top 100 were either the 1st round guys that were high Miami fits or the 4th or 5th round guys that I have that were like the Arroyos and stuff like that.
So you have Arroyos like a 4th or 5th round grade?
Yep. I think I have them as a borderline in between a 4th and a 5th.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's not a slight on him. I just think they're better players.
And to get it out there, I haven't seen Ferguson yet, so
Yeah.
The tight end room is probably the one that I've got the least amount of players on.
Same.
Fair enough. All right, we're gonna move on to the offensive line. I know that you guys have. I know you guys have to have some players that you have third,
Nope,
fourth.
none, zero.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just for that, I'm going to start with you, Josh.
Taylor, take it away. No, I'm kidding. Oh, so I have 5 players that are ranked third round that I have a relatively high grade on a few of 4 from a Miami standpoint. So kind of top of the list in round 3 for me is Ariante Ursi, the offensive tackle out of Minnesota. Kind of reminds me of like that power left tackle, that Orlando Brown Jr.-esque type player. Not saying we need him. We don't necessarily need a tackle, but hey, let's make the trenches as strong as you can. And if we can move things around, we will, right? The next guy I have on my list out of Texas is Cameron Williams. Kind of is that massive right tackle, kind of Trent Brown vibe, if you will. Both of those players, I have a relatively high, it's not very high, but a decently high kind of fit for Miami score on. Marcus Mbow, the offensive guard out of Purdue, kind of that Gabe Jackson starting guard, or kind of that strong starting guard. He's the one that I have the highest Dolphins grade on in round 3. I actually am a big fan of his. Nope. I do have a high grade on him. I was looking at the wrong line. Charles Grant out of William and Mary is the guy that I have the highest grade on from a Miami Dolphins standpoint. And I have him as a borderline round 2 player. So I put him in my round 3 just to give me a couple extra names to talk about. And then to round out my list is Anthony Belton out of NC State, offensive tackle, kind of that Mekhi Becton type player.
I'm a fan of Charles Grant.
Me too.
His small school, his small school roots aside, I think with some seasoning, he could become a really good player in the NFL.
Yeah, and I don't have it listed here, but when I watched the film on Grant, I know he's a decent. He's a pretty good tackle, but I have interior offensive line vibes when I watch him play. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's where he'll play. I'm sure a team will be enamored with him and will probably take him in round 2 if I had to guess, early in round 2. So to play offensive tackle, whether it's on the right or the left. But yeah, I like him. I would love him on this team. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, but I like him as a guard. I don't like him as a tackle.
Same.
Taylor, and what offensive lineman do you have?
All right, so this is offensive lineman, not just tackles, right?
Yeah, go full offensive line. Yeah.
Okay. Arante Ursary, I have a second round grade on. Cam Williams, I think I also had a second round grade on. Do you name anybody else other than Charles Grant?
Marcus Mbow and Anthony Belton.
Okay, so Belton I haven't gotten to yet. I think he's next up on my list.
You'll like him. You will like
Marcus.
him.
Marcus Bowe, I think I talked about last week as a second round pick. In terms of who I have on my list here, Charles Grant, get that out of the way. He is explosive as hell. If we had a tackle need, I could see the Dolphins drafting him and putting him at tackle. Like I think we're one of the few teams that I think would be like, we'll try him here, Yeah. Tate Ratledge and Wyatt Milam are the other two, and I like
Tate
the
Ratledge is a good one. Yeah.
So
with Ratledge,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say with Ratledge, I think you're getting some leadership there. He's a seasoned player. The only thing I really didn't like about him, I think he did improve quite a bit over the years, but he does have this weird like shoulder charge thing he does sometimes, and it just knocks him off balance. And I just don't understand why he keeps doing it.
That can be coached out of him. I mean, good offensive line coach. A Butch Berry will most definitely coach that out of him. Should he go to the Dolphins? But Wyatt Milam is actually one of my favorite players in this draft. I love the way this guy plays. He's a mean, nasty blocker. Tell us a little bit more about him, Taylor.
So I think one of the reasons I might have him graded a little lower is because my first impression of him was against Penn State.
Oh, no, that was not a good game. That was not a good game for him.
That wasn't a good game for anybody on West Virginia.
You know who it was a great game for? Abdul Carter.
Sure was.
that was one of the games that really got him. Hall of Fame performance there by Abdul Carter. And Wyatt Milam looked lost for a lot of that game. But what I think
I think you're being too kind. He was lost on it. He might have been still on the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, might have.
Yeah.
But he showed a lot of his shortcomings there, in terms of quickness and dealing with somebody who has several ways to win. He does have some quality strengths, and I think one of those quality strengths is that dog mentality that I think you really want to see in an offensive lineman. He plays through the whistle. I know we talked about Savanaia last week and how he's one of those players. Milam's right there with him. He is willing to go.
So if memory serves me correctly, Milam played right tackle in that game, right? Where Jalen Carter ate his lunch.
I cannot remember. He might have. I think he played left.
Abdul Carter, yeah, sorry.
I think it was left. I think it was on the left side.
Yeah.
Well, either way, Wyatt Milam is another one of those dudes where you move him inside. Like he does have quickness issues. I agree with you, Taylor. He did quickness issues, and they are going to persist. They're going to persist in the NFL. With a guy like that, you put him into a box.
Phone booth. Yep.
Yeah, you put him into a phone booth and you let him beat up his opponent. And that's exactly what he'll do if you put him at guard. Like if you put him at right guard, like, man, like this guy has, all pro potential at right guard. I see.
Okay, I don't think I wouldn't go that far, but I do like him. Now Savanaia, that dude is got all pro written all over him at the guard position.
All right. Well,
that was a round 2 guy, by the way.
Yeah. Before we move on, I do want to throw out my pro comp for Wyatt Milam.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna sound like a shot, but I think he's a lot like Trevor Penning, who plays for New Orleans. But if you remember back in the day when Trevor Penning was coming out, a lot of people were talking about like, oh man, this guy's a dog. He plays through the whistle. But he kind of was like over that line to where you're like, all right, man, maybe you should dial it back. This is the line. Like, this is what we wanted to see from Trevor Penning.
Yeah.
Like, Wyatt Milam is exactly what I think people wanted from him.
Yeah, he's got a nasty streak to him that you want for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of thing can be contagious along the offensive line. So
Milam just has that control to him that I don't think Penning really had.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to interior defensive line here. Taylor, I'm going to start with you on this one.
What, 3 in a row? What the hell, man?
Did I get into I thought I started off on offensive line with you.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Okay. So interior defensive line.
I have Jordan Phillips from Maryland, who has a second, third round grade. Mm-hmm. Darius Alexander from Toledo with a third round grade. Shamar Turner from Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. And Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, both of them with third round grades. Out of that group, Jordan Phillips is the guy that stands out to me. Not to fully get into the conversation because I'm sure that Josh and you, Keith, will probably mention Jordan Phillips' name, but he kind of reminds me a bit like going all the way to the top of the first round. I think him and Mason Graham shared the same questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how good can they be as pass rushers?
Yeah.
I think they're elite run defenders, though. But in terms of the questions for me, I don't know if Jordan Phillips can be a consistent pass rusher.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, I've seen Jordan Phillips mocked into the late third, early fourth round. And with his skill set, I see him as a second rounder. I don't understand why he's being mocked so late. Josh, give me your list, and I don't know if you have Jordan Phillips on it, but
I don't. I have Jordan Phillips as a fourth rounder, like a fringe third round guy. I just think he's got a lot of kinks in his armor. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'd be thrilled to get him in the third or fourth round, to be honest with you. But I have two of the players that Taylor mentioned. I have Shamar Stewart and Tyleik Williams, but I also have Ty Robinson out of Nebraska.
Okay,
I'm a big fan of his. Not necessarily a fit for Miami. He's got a relatively low fit score for me, just under 100 out of 400. However, as a player, I'm a big fan. He reminds me. He's a run stuffer, right? He's got that Ashawn Robinson vibe to me. That's the player comp I have for him, right? So, hey, I'd be thrilled to have him on the team. I wouldn't be thrilled if we took him in the third round, but if he was there in the fourth or the fifth, I'm not saying he will be. I'd take a flyer on him. But Shamar Stewart out of TA&M, Malik Collins, kind of that 3-tech penetrator, Tyleek Williams, that DJ Reader kind of nose tackle type player. All three of these guys with round 3 grades for me are really good players. From a Miami Dolphins standpoint, though, Shamar Turner actually have a 145.4 out of 400 rated on him, so not too bad.
Is it because he's always injured? Because
yeah, that actually raised his score, believe it or not.
Yeah. To be fair to him, real quick, he did play through the entire season with a stress fracture in his foot.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I read something like he didn't even know it, or something. Which
that reminds me of that reminds me of Samson. Is it Samson Satelli? Who got 2 root canals and 3 teeth pulled, and was at practice running Oklahoma drills and bag drills the next day. Right, he was our nose. If you remember, I don't know if you remember him, Taylor. I think he was our nose tackle, right?
No, he was a center. Samson
center.
Satelli.
Center. That's right. Center. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, stress fracture in his foot. You didn't even know it.
Badass.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I have to say that raises him in my book. His toughness score, which just went way up. We're going to move on to the edge, outside linebacker, defensive line room. Josh, I'll start with you on this one.
I have a ton of players.
Okay.
I have 1 linebacker, and I have 2, 4, 6, 7 edge players with round 3 grades. 3 of which, 2 edge players. I'm sorry, I can't count. 3 edge players and 1 linebacker. I have a very high fit for Miami score on them based on my criteria. In order, I have Nick Scorton, edge out of Texas A&M. Reminds me of my player comp for him is Trey Henderson. Carson Schlesinger is, we'll talk about him later. Linebacker out of UCLA. Really like him a lot. Landon Jackson, edge out of Arkansas. Josiah Stewart out of Michigan is an edge for those that don't know. JT Tuwe, I can't pronounce his last name, edge out of Ohio State. I don't know, I'm not even going to try. Braden Swinson, edge out of LSU. Princely, I'm not going to try that one either. Edge out of Ole Miss. And Jared Ivey out of Ole Miss as well. So those are my 3rd round grade players at edge and linebacker. I want to take a second to talk about Miami Dolphins fit for some of these guys, right? So Nick Scorton, Carson Schlesinger, Landon Jackson, Josiah Stewart. Those are the players that I wouldn't do backflips, but I would consider doing backflips for if we got either of these guys in rounds 3 or 4. Some of them I have fringe round 4 grades on. Landon Jackson kind of reminds me of Trey Flowers. Big edge, love it. Arkansas guy, kind of that gritty Southern. He's got that country strength.
So, Josh, I'm going to stop you on that one, Landon Jackson. I've seen him sneak into the 1st round in some mocks. You have a 3rd round grade on him. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
3rd and 2nd.
Okay.
I think there are some kinks in his armor, right? I don't think he's a polished player. I don't think he's a 1st round player. I don't. I think teams will, and again, this is how I rank them. I'm not ranking them based on how teams perceive them because I have no idea.
Yeah.
I do know that an edge needy team probably has them much higher than I do. I don't think the Dolphins need an edge, or at least one early. If we take one in rounds 3 or 4, or hopefully not 3, but we take one in 4, we take one in 5, fine. Let's take a flyer. Let's keep churning some talent in that room. So I have lower grades on these guys than some others do when it comes to a Miami Dolphins fit score. Landon Jackson, I have ranked 70th overall out of 100. So it's not a bad grade on him. Still a top 70 player, but. And Josiah Stewart reminds me of Elvis Dumervil. Anyone remember Elvis Dumervil?
That's a good shout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Undersized edge guy out of Michigan, kind of that do it all, put your nose in the grind, and just, I'm going to run through your chest. I don't care who you are. I'm going to run through you. And then when you think I'm going to run through you, I'm going to run around you. It's great.
All right, Taylor, give me some 3rd round guys.
All right, so I'm going to start off with Landon Jackson because I'm actually lower than Josh on Landon Jackson. I have a 3rd round grade on him. Jared Ivey, I have a 3rd round grade for the edge rusher from Ole Miss. Jordan Burch, the edge rusher from Oregon. I have a 3rd round grade. Kyle Kennard from South Carolina, 3rd round grade.
That's a good
And
one.
Josiah Stewart from Michigan, a 3rd/4th round grade on. In terms of linebackers, because we're combining them here, I got Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma with a 3rd round grade, and Chris Paul Jr. with a 3rd round grade. Chris Paul Jr. from Ole Miss. I think I'll just shout this out, and then I want to talk about Danny Stutzman. Jared Ivey, Landon Jackson, and Jordan Birch, I think they have the measurables to kind of fit in on the defensive line, which I find interesting because they can kind of provide a little bit of versatility as like this edge rusher, but also play a role on the D line as a D end. Especially Landon Jackson and Birch. Birch is an athletic freak. Like I had to see if he had his measurables right. Danny Stutzman, though, this dude's a baller.
Yeah. Yes, he's
absolute baller.
I have a 4th round grade on him.
Mentality.
I have a 4th round grade on him, but he's on my certified dogs list.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely is.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Danny Stutzman, too. Look, if the Dolphins took him in the 3rd round, I wouldn't be sad.
No, I'd be giving high fives to everyone on our podcast, on our live show, mind you, for those that aren't aware.
Yes.
He's the opposite of Brooks, too, because Brooks, I think, is really good in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny Stutzman, I think that's his big flaw is he does look lost sometimes there. But even though he's not perfect in run defense, he's just so tenacious in his pursuit of the running back that I think he'd be a spectacular run defender on
Who's
this
this pro comp for you guys?
Stutzman?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk too much about him because I have him as my late round sleeper. But
All right, fair enough.
I have Logan Wilson.
Okay.
I have Brian Cushing.
Oh, damn, that's a better one.
I'm
changing my answer.
I see a little bit of Zach Thomas in him. I'm just
you know who I almost comped him as is Luke Kuechly.
Oh yeah, I can see it. I see him as a little bit taller Zach Thomas. Like Zach Thomas is a 5th round pick, guys. He's a 5th round pick out of the Texas A&M.
Yeah.
You know, like let's not sit here and pretend like Zach Thomas was some.
That's Ray Lewis, man.
Yeah, I realize that. But like, let's not pretend like Zach Thomas came out and he was some Ray Lewis-esque, golden god looking physical freak. Yeah. There were flaws, especially having to do with his size. And Danny Stutzman, I see as something similar.
Just don't put that on him if we draft him, because I think he'd fail immediately.
That's not fair. That's not fair. All right, we're going to move on to so we did. I guess we're linebacker. Right? Yeah, so we're going to cornerbacks now. So Taylor, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Well, these next 2 positions are going to be pretty easy. Dorian Strong from Virginia Tech got a 3rd round grade, and Jacob Parrish from Kansas State. I have a 3rd round grade. Dorian Strong, I guess. I mean, he's an outside guy. I do like how physical he plays. I do like him as a bit of a ball hawk. But, I mean, Jacob Parrish is a guy, I think, who played on the outside a lot at Kansas State. But his size, I think, is going to force whatever team drafts him to move him inside as a nickel who can kind of cover those faster guys and jump on those routes and play physically. But for the Dolphins here, if you're going to take a corner, I think you just got to do it in the first 2 rounds. Mm-hmm.
That's fair. So like Azariah Thomas, you have him as a second rounder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Azariah Thomas, Ben Morrison, trying to think, is there any
Maxwell
Trey
Hairston.
Amos, Hairston?
Yeah.
All 2nd rounders.
Okay. There seems to be a drop off after that 2nd tier guys in cornerback this year. And that's scary because we just talked about how badly the Dolphins are probably going to need cornerback in this draft.
Yeah.
So Josh, talk to me about cornerbacks.
Yeah. So Azariah Thomas is actually, I have a fringe 2nd, probably closer to a 3rd round grade on. Carlton Davis is my comp, right? That long press corner. I'm a Florida State grad, so I have a soft spot for Florida State players. I'm not even ashamed of it. But I also happen to have a very, very high fit score for Miami for this player. If he's there in the third round, I think you hang up the phone. You don't take any phone calls. You don't trade down. You don't do anything. You run to the podium and you take this man. I don't care if we took a cornerback in round 1.
That's all I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Azaria Thomas, if he's there in the third round, and especially if we're trading Ramsey, this guy could replace him.
Okay.
I think he has the potential to be up there with talent. I'm not saying he will.
Yeah.
His floor is much lower, right?
Yeah.
As a Florida State guy, I watched literally every single snap of his since he was been in college. He's got some flaws, but man, his highs are high.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I've seen him go in the early second, and I've seen him drop down to the mid third.
Yep.
And
that's kind of where I have that range, right?
Yeah. I can see him going anywhere in that range. But I do think a team's going to fall in love with his physical gifts. And
he's a machine. He's the Ivan Drago of the third round cornerbacks. The other guy I have is Quincy Riley out of Louisville.
Okay.
I have a trade like Trayvon Diggs, kind of that ball hawk cornerback kind of player comp for him.
Okay. And finally, we're going to move on to safety. Josh, I will start with you on safety.
Hold on. Okay. So I have 3 safeties, all of which I'm a fan of. All of them with third round grades. Jalen Reed out of Penn State. I have a player comp as Von Bell, kind of that physical safety, right?
Yeah.
My favorite choice for round 3 is Billy Bowman Jr. out of Oklahoma. Tyrann Mathieu, versatile DB, kind of that Swiss Army knife, is a master of everything. Is a master of nothing, but I don't know, whatever that saying is. And Jonas Senker out of Virginia. I have him coming in at the clean 100 out of 100.
All right.
Not as in he's 100 out of 100, but he's ranked the 100th player and in my top 100. I have him a Tualonga.
Hufanga.
Yeah.
Jesus. TH, right? So the instinctive safety, that's my player comp for Senker.
I agree with you on Jalen Reed. He's your typical strong safety.
Yep.
He's your and
yep.
And that makes him not necessarily a fit for what the Dolphins want to do, because I still think they need that more of a center. Guy. Yeah, more of a center fielder, center fielder type guy, an Earl Thomas type of guy. But doesn't mean I don't love what this guy brings to the table. I just don't see him in Miami.
Every time, so I want to hate him. Yeah. Well, not him personally. I want to dislike the player.
Yeah.
Every single time I turn on his tape, he flashes.
He's doing something good. Yeah.
I mean, and he's thumping. You know what I mean? And you're just like, oh, God, that guy's gonna wake up sore. He gets up and does it again.
Yeah.
He gets up and he's the he'd be great in like Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of safety he is.
I also don't want to see him playing next to Minka because that's deadly.
That's a hard pass. Thanks.
Yeah.
But Billy Bowman Jr. though is a guy to keep an eye on, fellas. If you're not familiar, get familiar.
Okay. Taylor, what kind of safeties do you have?
Just to talk about Reed here for a second, I think I have a 4th round grade on him.
Okay.
Day 3, tier 1. It's just my grade scale. Basically means high end 4th round. I like him. I think he filled in very well to be like the guy in the safety room when Kevin Winston Jr. went down with his season-ending injury. I do love how he just comes into the play with just pure velocity and volatility. Like he's going in there to hit stick you. And he doesn't care what happens.
He's a pipe bomb. Is how I explain him to players. He's a pipe bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the guy I have, I only have one player here, and that's Kevin Winston Jr., his teammate at Penn State. And I think they both have similarities in the issues, and that is when it comes to, one-on-one coverage. Can they really handle it? Winston, you have to go back to 2023 because he was injured early on in 2024, torn ACL. But he mostly played deep. Scouts say that he is a great locker room guy. Aside from the injury concerns, like I said, the coverage stuff, but I do think he's an outstanding run stopper. as well, and I think he can be a leader in the secondary.
Yep. And I do have a correction to make, fellas. I missed the player when we were talking about the offensive line.
Okay.
Jared Wilson, center out of Georgia.
There we
have
go.
Yep. Mitch Morris is my comp. I have a round 3 grade on him. Not a huge fit for Miami, but I thought it was, I have him ranked 94th out of 100 in my top 100. But I have him ranked as the number 1 center.
It's also worth noting that we still do need a backup center because we can't go into the season with Liam Eichenberger as our backup center again. Just tossing that one out there.
Sure.
Yeah. Here's my potentially hot take about Jared Wilson. If he went back to Georgia and played one more year, I think he would have been a first-round pick.
1,000% agree with you.
I think he'd be talked about Tyler Linderbaum 2.0 right here because I struggled to find issues. I really did with him. To me, it was just like, 1 year, he's a redshirt sophomore. He makes mistakes, but even when he would make a mistake, he would correct it in play.
Yeah.
Into play. Not like, on the next drive. No, it's like he wouldn't let the guy get to Carson Beck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like him so much. I tried to convince myself, hey, let's draft him and put him at right guard, right? Even though he's a bona fide center. I mean, this is one of those players where you don't draft him and you move. He's a center, right? So we could draft him and maybe move Aaron Burr to right guard if we wanted to, right?
I'd rather take that risk. I'd much rather take that risk.
Right? Anyway.
Yeah, I could see it. Aaron Brewer has played guard in the past, so yeah, maybe. I mean, look, the plan is going to come into place. I think we should believe that.
Oh, for sure. And hey, before we forget to mention it, for those that are watching this now live or for those that are watching it later, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about all of these positional players for round 3 that we said. I just want to make sure we called it out. Really excited to hear kind of everyone's thoughts on this.
I'm just going to go to the comments real quick. Nickel City Mafia, congrats, Anthony.
Yes.
Good to see you too, Mike. We'll see you next week for the live draft show. And Mike is one of Landon Jackson's biggest champions. He loves Landon Jackson.
I mean, what's not to love about a potential Trey Flowers? Yeah. Well, please no.
Yeah.
Please no. Thank you.
And then with Frozen Phins fan checking in, Jesus flip tables weekend too.
Yeah, I think that was a comment to Anthony saying I'm ready to flip tables up top. Yep.
And hope you're having a great evening. We hope you're having a great evening as well. We can't wait to have you on the show, man.
Yeah. Frozen Phins fan, or Dirk, as his first name implies. I got to be honest with you. Doing this every week with these fellas is a treat. So, yes, we are certainly having a great evening.
We are. And we are going to move on. So we're going to do potential sleepers here. So regardless
fourth round, right? 4th round and below. Is that what
fourth,
you, is that?
4th or 7th? Yeah. So we're going to do potential sleepers here. We're going to, regardless of position, I want 3 guys. We're not gonna prolong this. I want 3 guys from each of you. Potential sleepers. I'm going to start with 2 of mine. One is Teddy Buchanan, linebacker out of University of California. Guy was a terror on the California defense last year. Now he's a little undersized. He looks like Palomalu out there. He's got this long flowing black hair. I'm a big fan of his game. He's got a nose for the football. He has instincts. I think he could be a potential late round steal. And another guy that I really like is tight end Aronde Gadsden Jr. out of the University of Syracuse. Yeah. And it's not just because I love his father, because his father was one of my favorite receivers when I was a kid.
Same.
Yeah.
How cool would it be if we got both him and Taylor?
I know, that'd be awesome.
Right? Just not that it would ever happen, but how cool would that be?
That'd be awesome. So I'm going to start with you here, Taylor. Give me some potential sleepers from you, man.
All right, so I'm going to start off with a wide receiver who I just watched yesterday, and I was dumbstruck on how he's not more talked about. The wide receiver from Arkansas, Isaac Tesla. This dude is 6 foot. I think he's 6'5". He plays mostly in the slot. He is a deep threat machine. The lack of production, I think, is the reason why, to be honest with you, because it just doesn't match up with what you see on film. He is so natural in his route running. He is so surefire in the contested catches. He reminds me a lot of Cooper Kupp. And yes, I know that seems like a lazy comparison there when you see Isaac Tesla, but I think when you watch him play, you'll kind of see how I came to that conclusion.
I hate the cars, but I love the player.
But in terms of the interior offensive line, Keith, you're going to like these two. I have Luke Kandra from Cincinnati.
I like him. I like him a lot. Yeah.
And I have Willie Lampkin from North Carolina.
I like him too. A man after my own heart, Taylor.
Yeah.
Be still my beating heart. Thank you.
Oh, Jesus.
So for Kantra, he's a player who I think would fit the Dolphins pretty well.
Yeah.
He is just really solid all around to me. He can get to that second level really quick. He can move somewhat quick as well. I do have some questions on him in terms of the pass pro, but overall, I do think he's one of those players that I wouldn't be surprised if a team reaches in the third to get him. I really don't. Willie Lampkin's a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
Because he's somebody that I do not blame you if you take one look at him and you're like, no, I'm not drafting him. Because he's one of the smallest offensive linemen ever to come out of a draft. I think he's the lightest offensive lineman to ever go to the Senior Bowl. At like 280.
I wouldn't be
surprised. If you watch him, but if you watch him in North Carolina, he's just somebody who, I'm small, but you know what? I can also get up under defensive linemen easier because of that. I'm going to use that leverage to win the rep. And he does it so consistently. He is a good football player. And I can't explain it. I don't know what he's going to do in the NFL. He might play guard. He might play center. He might even play fullback. I have no idea.
I was going to say a heavy set tight end, right? It would be perfect for him.
Yeah. But he's going to play somewhere, and he's been pretty good at it.
Yeah, I liked him a lot, and I did see some of his reps at the Senior Bowl, and he did win consistently. It's tough to see him lining up. It's tough to. All right, if the Dolphins were to draft him, put him at right guard next to Aaron Brewer, who incidentally is also one of the lightest offensive linemen in the NFL. You put these two guys up against, hypothetically, the Buffalo Bills.
Run the other way.
And Big Ed Oliver. It's tough to envision the Dolphins winning that matchup. But I love this guy's tenacious. I love the tenacity with which this guy plays. Love that you brought him up, Taylor, too. Like he's one of my favorite players in the draft, even though I don't see him as a fit with the Dolphins necessarily. All right, Josh, 3 sleepers.
Yeah, so we already talked about him earlier. Most people have him ranked a little bit higher than I do. Danny Stutzman, round 4 grade for me. Logan Wilson comp, athletic, instinctive linebacker, kind of that strong run defense, blitzing skills. I think he needs to obviously develop in coverage, something Taylor mentioned, right? But my God, would he be a perfect fit for this team, in my humble opinion. A little nod to you, sir, Keith. Ozzie Trapilio, offensive tackle. I have him with an ADP, an average draft position of a 5th rounder out of Boston College. He reminds me of Mike McGlinchey. That's the player comp I have for him, right? Tall, athletic tackle, strong with strong pass protecting skills, versatile across the line, which is one of the things I really like about him. He can play tackle, he can play guard. You can kind of slot him in wherever you need. He projects, in my opinion, as kind of the swing tackle, right, with starting potential, right? And then last but not least, wide receiver out of San Jose State, who I have a player comp of Alec Pierce, is Nick Nash.
Nick Nash, okay.
Yep, former quarterback, turned receiver. He's got that deep threat capabilities. He's got a high football IQ, but his route running and his kind of break-off speed and stuff and his acceleration needs to obviously get worked on. I mean, he is a former quarterback, and he did play at a smaller school, but I have a 6th round grade on him. positional grade and the wide receiver grade is a 22 out of all of them. So if we can, this is one of those late round post draft free agent kind of players you take a flyer on, and you can, if he does pan out if he does make the roster, you can even do some who's the guy from New Orleans, the Taysom Hill type things, right, where he's a wide receiver and he swings and you pass it and he dumps it because he is a quarterback. So there's some cool tools there that you can play around with.
Yeah, I like it.
Ozzie Trapillo, though, man, if he's there in the 5th or the 6th, that's one of those things you do a backflip for and you go pick him up.
Absolutely.
I don't think he's going to make it there.
No, I really don't. I know. No. Shut up.
Where do you see him going then, Taylor?
I got a 2nd round grade on him. I already talked about him last week. I think he's somebody who is a versatile weapon. He played, I think, mostly right tackle, but he's also played left. He's played guard. He's played every position except for center.
Well, he did play center. He played center for half a game against Florida State, I think.
Well, there we go. He played all 5 positions in college, technically. So he's somebody who I think is going to be a really good tackle for somebody.
Well, I don't know. We don't have a lot of players with that big of a discrepancy between draft positions. Yeah, we should watch.
Yeah, it might be the most. Right.
Yeah, we should watch because you have him as a 2nd, I have him as a 5th, like a fringe 4th, right?
But you still felt the need to bring him up as one of your sleepers. So maybe he should be ranked higher in your rankings.
Well, no, sleeper because he's not a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd rounder, right? Because we said sleepers were 4th round and beyond.
Yeah.
So I have a 4th and a 4th or 5th round grade on him. I maybe I need to go watch his film again. I don't know.
Fair
I'm a big fan of his. Please understand, this is not a slight on him. I just think there are 12 better offensive linemen than him in the draft.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, so we were getting up to we're past the hour and 35-minute mark here. We had one more segment planned. We're going to push that to next week, and we're going to go to takes from the deep end. So, Josh, take it away.
You got it, guys. All right, so takes from the deep end. For those of you that are not aware of what this is, these aren't just our takes, right? These are straight from the fans, okay? Unfiltered, passionate, bold. And when I say bold, bold as hell. We are doing draft exclusive takes. Okay, fellas, these aren't necessarily, some of them are Miami Dolphins specific, some of them are not, okay? Hang on tight. Be right back.
Takes from the deep end.
Man, I love our videos. All right, let's just dive right in, fellas. Keith, this is coming right to you, all right?
All right.
Takes from the deep end. The Dolphins will draft a running back in the top 100. Despite having Achane and Wright.
Yeah, we went over this earlier on in the show. They better not. There's too many holes. There's too many holes on this team to like. I would love a Bo Scatabo on the Dolphins roster, but I just unless he has to wait until the 4th round to get picked, which I don't see happening. The Dolphins can't really afford. This is one of those positions that is okay going into the draft. Like they have Achane, they have Jalen Wright, they have Alexander Madison, who they signed in free agency. This is not a position of need. Draft positions of need. Draft cornerbacks, draft interior defensive lineman, draft interior offensive lineman.
Agreed.
Maybe not necessarily in that order, but don't draft a running back in the top 100. Like, come on now, that's idiotic.
I like it. All right, Taylor, this one's for you, buddy. Takes from the deep end. Miami's 1st round pick will be traded. Greer is cooking up something big.
Might be a hot take. I hope that happens.
I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think that's a great take.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope it is. I hope it's trade back into the end of the 1st round. I wouldn't be really upset with trading into the 2nd. It's not because I hate the players that will be available there. It's because I really like a lot of the round 2, round 3 players, and this team needs young talent. And I'm not sure that the players that will be available at 13, barring about 2-3 options maybe, are worth that discrepancy,
Yeah.
Agreed. All right. It looks like there's a take in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
Takes from the deep end. Chris Greer is traded to Washington High School in exchange for a random sophomore to be our new. I'm probably, honestly, Dirk, I'm going to be completely candid with you. They would probably see the same outcome, right?
Yeah.
That is.
Well, that's what the Jets are doing.
That is hilarious.
The Jets are taking players based on Madden ratings. So
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta love it.
sorry, Jets fans. We gotta take a little
typical.
bit of happiness where we can.
Typical Jets.
You
fan.
guys are doing pretty well.
And
compared to
we
us.
talked about Martinez from the U earlier, Frozen Fin fan. If he's available in the fourth, I'm all for it. Absolutely.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know, I'm all for taking a halfback in this draft, but I think there's just too many needs on this roster to take one with a top 100 pick.
Agreed 1,000%. All right, Keith, this is coming right to you, buddy.
All right.
Takes from the deep ends. The Dolphins will take 2 cornerbacks early, and it will be the most hated picks of the draft by the fans until it works.
All right, so kind of break this into 3 parts here. Dolphins take 2 cornerbacks early. I could see it, especially if they trade away Jalen Ramsey. I could definitely see it. It'll be the most hated pick of the day of the draft by fans. I could also see that most definitely until it works. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles last year, drafting Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean with their first 2 picks. Tell me that didn't work out for them.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm coming around to cornerback in the first round. I'm coming around to cornerback in the second. I'm coming around to the Dolphins not taking an offensive lineman early just because I'm terrified. I'm terrified of. Well, look, if they take an offensive lineman early, I'm not going to necessarily.
Right.
But you know, I look at the holes on this roster, and it's like, dang. And if they trade away Jalen Ramsey, I'm going to be looking at 2 holes at the cornerback position.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you tell me they're going to take 2 cornerbacks to replace to start for the Dolphins early, how can I criticize that?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard though because there's that juxtaposition, right? It's like let's take 2 high-end talents, right?
Yeah.
But then you're starting 2 rookies, and you're like, okay, that makes me a little nervous. But yeah, I'm with you.
And conversely, like the Eagles, they drafted Cooper DeJean, they drafted Quinyon Mitchell with their first 2 picks.
Yeah.
And they had Darius Slay.
Yeah, fair.
Wily veteran to kind of put these guys last year.
Yeah, I mean, we do have
Bring up though.
Storm Duck.
Yeah, you do have Storm Duck. But what you bring up, Keith, is a fantastic point because it goes into our show next week, our live show for the draft, and it goes to everything we've been talking about. It's like, yeah, it's cool to go through these players and share our thoughts on it and to hear what fans think of it and all that. But when draft day comes, it's going to be random at times.
Yeah.
Michael Penix going to the Falcons seemed really random. And all of a sudden, Quinyon Mitchell, who was seen as the top cornerback among a lot of people, ends up going all the way to the Eagles. And Cooper DeJean, who was seen as another top cornerback, who was going to be a first-round pick as well, or seen as a borderline first, goes all the way back to the Eagles in the second round. Yeah. So who knows? Like, we could be sitting here going like, oh, the Dolphins are going to be screwed at pick 13, but the draft could break perfectly for the Dolphins. And I sat here saying I would love to trade back.
Yeah.
And it would change that completely.
I mean, we're due for something to break our way.
Well, we got that with Laramie Tunsil, and we got a bunch of picks as a result.
And we did absolutely jack with them. All right. Yeah. Keith, this is coming right to you. Or not Keith. I think it's
Taylor. Yeah.
Taylor.
It's Taylor. Yeah.
4 takes from the deep end. 4 quarterbacks will go in rounds 1 and 2. 4 quarterbacks will go in round 1, and 2 of them will be massive busts.
Probably. Wait, hold on. Is it first 2 rounds or first round?
No. 4 quarterbacks in round 1. 2 of those 4 will completely be busts.
Nah, I don't see 4 quarterbacks going in round 1. So there we go.
I can see a scenario in which they do. I can see Cam Ward, Shador Sanders going to I don't
New
know,
Orleans.
Cleveland, right? Jackson Dart going to New Orleans, and the guy out of Ohio State, I'm blanking on his name, going to the Rams.
Well,
Crazy.
Howard.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a scenario in which that happens. It's not crazy, or a team trading up, right? So if Cleveland takes the player they should take, and Abdul Carter, they could trade back up into round one if they feel the need to, depending on who's available, right?
I mean, Josh, it could happen. I'm with Taylor though. I just don't
Yeah.
see it. I see two quarterbacks.
It's not my
going in the
take.
first round. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Maybe
Love it.
3 with Jackson Dart and Shador both going in first.
Potentially, yeah.
And you're like, okay, who's the 4? Is it Jalen Milroe? Is it Tyler Shuck? And then you're looking at, okay, it's one of those two. Who's the team that takes them? The Steelers are a trade up. Are teams actually going to do that in this class, or are they going to sit there and go like, kind of what happened last year after the 6 quarterbacks went and Spencer Rattler was sitting there? It was, no, we're not going to reach on Spencer Rattler because everybody's already taken their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll take him whenever we feel like it. And the answer was in the 5th round.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about this, but can we just acknowledge the fact that Tyler Shuck had probably one of the worst combines you could ever have?
Yeah.
His accuracy was disgusting. Or maybe it was his pro day. I can't remember. It was horrible, whatever it was. Anyways. All right. Last one for you guys. Takes from the deep end. At least 2 teams will trade back twice in the first round.
I could say it. I mean, I could see it a lot easier, like 2 teams, if Bill Belichick was still drafting. But yeah, I could see it. I could see the Dolphins doing it. I could see the Dolphins, looking at their pick at 13 and saying, you know what, none of the guys that we wanted to be here are here. We're going to trade back. Let team like the Steelers come up and draft Shador Sanders or Jackson Dart, and then trade back again, get assets. I mean, that's what this draft needs to be about for teams like the Dolphins. Get assets, get cheap draft picks, and get talent in here, young talent in here. So one of those 2 teams could be the Dolphins. So I could see it.
What about you, Taylor?
So for 2 teams to trade back twice, it really makes you think like, okay, then who's trading up? And that's the issue for me. Like, I don't really know who's trading up to get players past a certain point. Like, even drafting at 13, I'm sitting there going like, who's going to trade with the Dolphins to even trade up? But I don't know. Maybe something changes on draft day, and like I was talking about with the Eagles thing. But,
yeah. This also,
no, I don't see this one happening.
Well, this is also one of the scenarios where, like, at 13, we want Shador Sanders to be available.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like that, like if that happens, there's going to be teams calling the Dolphins saying, okay, we want to come up and take Shador.
Or Keith, you want Cam Ward to be gone, you want Shador to be gone, and you want teams to be thinking,
and Jackson Dart to be gone.
Yeah, you want people, going, oh, we need to get a quarterback. We didn't think Shador was going to go.
Yeah.
And then you get a trade there for Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know as the Dolphins if I want more quarterbacks and wide receivers to go and edge players to go before our pick so that all of our positions of needs, like the top players are there, and then we can decide, hey, do we want to trade back a little bit? Because, let's trade. There's 5 of our top 6 players still available. Let's trade back 4 spots, collect a 3rd round pick, and we still have a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if we want some of the top tier talent to fall down to us so we can trade back in your scenario. Be interesting, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Fellas,
so
that's all we got.
All right. So that was Takes from the Deep End. So we're going to, we're at the hour and 48-minute mark. So we're going to end it here, guys. So first and foremost, I'm going to say to the people out there, if you like what you saw tonight, please like, subscribe, leave comments. We will answer any and all comments. And if you have anything that, anything you disagree with, anything that you agreed with, please let us know. Secondly, I wanted to congratulate Anthony one more time on his baby boy, and everybody's doing well. So we're super happy about that. And we will look forward to Anthony rejoining the show in a couple of months once he adjusts to the rigors of fatherhood. And third, I'm going to talk about our draft show. We're going to do a live draft show. We're going to do a collaboration with the Nickel City Mafia channel. They are a Bills channel, but they are good guys. I promise you.
They really are. They really
yeah.
are.
And we're going to do a collaboration with those guys on nights 1 and 2 of the draft. We're going to be live for the whole thing. And we are still doing a Wednesday. We're still doing a show next Wednesday. We're going to be doing mock drafts. The three of us are going to be doing mock drafts next Wednesday. So from there, I'm going to get final thoughts from you guys. So Josh, I'll start with you.
Yeah, don't really know if there's much else to say, man. Really, really, really excited for next week. We got basically 3 shows in a row.
Yeah.
Super excited. It's going to be grueling, but it's going to be fun. Anthony, if you're watching this, congratulations, man. Seriously. Glad everyone is safe. Glad everyone is doing well. Can't wait to hear all of the growing pains and all the stories of your first attempt at fatherhood. But
yeah,
he's got a good dad, so, and a good mom. So the kid's lucky.
Yeah. Kid is lucky. Now the kid is he's probably going to be living in a Dolphins household, so I don't know how lucky he is.
Hey, everything in balance.
Fair enough.
He's got great parents, but he's a Dolphins fan.
Yeah. All right, Taylor, final thoughts.
Congrats to Anthony again, and I'm excited for next week, man. It's finally over. Well, it's almost over.
Almost.
It's almost over. The wait's over. Almost over, like you said.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to call it a night. So thank you guys for tuning in. Again, please like, subscribe, leave comments. We will answer any and all comments. And you guys have a lovely, lovely night.